Right.
Okay, welcome back. And today we have an interview with a friend, and I'll just make brief introductions. My name is Melissa Skinner. I'm one of the lead pastors at Fifth Avenue Church. I'm talking with Terri Reed, who also goes to Fifth Avenue Church, and she and I have been recording conversations around the issue of race and equality and just getting to know each other's perspectives. Today, we're interviewing a friend of both of ours named Brian Sims. And Terri, I can't remember how long you've known Brian, but I know I probably met him and his family in 2003, I think, when we both went to the same church, New Day, and we sang on the worship team together. And he was really fun to just worship with, and played the keys, and I think he sang tenor. And so it's been fun making music. And my husband also, of course, he was leading the team at the time, and so both my husband Joel and I really love Brian. And we hadn't really talked much until, I don't know, maybe a year ago. My friend Amanda had reminded me that he cuts hair, which you can see he's in hair cutting place right now at Blessings. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot. Like, I need to get my hair cut. I should go to him too. And so I started getting my hair cut by Brian again. So it's been fun just reconnecting while my hair's got cut. And so it's just really nice to have a chance to talk with him. Brian, we just have a few questions we thought would be interesting to hear from your perspective. And first, as just three human people who love Jesus and just love God, do you want to give just a brief history of how you came to know Jesus and join the outright family of God?
Yeah, I was, I mean, there's a couple of times I gave my life to God, but the most memorable was I was about 15. My cousin said she was going to go give her life to God the following Sunday. And I'm like, I said, oh, I want to do that too, you know. And then I went down, you know, she jumped up, she started going down we were up in the balcony at my church. It was a Baptist church back in the day. And she got up and started walking out. And then my cousin Michael said, I thought you was going. I said, I am. And I jumped up and walked down this, and it looked like the aisle was like a mile long, you know, to get there. I opened up the doors, and like two double doors. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. So walked down crying, you know, didn't know what I was doing. And no one ever taught me or showed me all the spiritual things, and, you know, and I drifted back into some of my old life, and then eventually gave my life fully to God. During the same cousin, we started singing together in a gospel group, and she's like, they said, well, everybody has to be saved. I'm like, okay. And I gave my life to God again, but not knowing anything as to why I did that. And then from then on, I just started, you drift there at a certain time, and then finally I was singing in the gospel choir, and we had this song we were doing, It Is Well, and God touched me, really actually touched me then. And I said, oh, that's you, you know? And that same night, we went out dancing. And then I got back home and I cried. Like I said, I know you called me for something. I don't know what that is. Let's figure it out. And from then on, I just gave my life to God and started reading my Bible and studying, and, you know, and that's when God really got a hold of me. So, yeah, that's kind of my story.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever asked you that question, so that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about race and how our experiences differ from one another, you know, I've known you for a long time, but it's only recently where I've really realized that I might have lived a different experience than you, even in the same city, even going to church with people who love Jesus and mostly good intentions. So I was wondering, and Terri was too, is there anything that you would like people of Eugene, especially white people of Eugene, to know about what it's like living in Eugene as a Black person or another person of color?
Um, well, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain it to people. I've had a good experience overall. I mean, I've met some wonderful people. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. So it's not really a race thing, but in the back of my mind, I always know that race plays a part of everything that people view me as a human being, and so I automatically approach it from that standpoint, but not like in a way that I'm like, oh, I'm watching you type of thing, where I'm judgmental of how that person views me. But there's some people that that are openly racist, and I kind of appreciate that, because I don't have to guess. I don't have to guess who you are. You showing your true colors, and that I kind of respect that, a person that actually will tell me or show me who they really actually are out the gate. It's like, for me, it's like, okay, well, listen, I know who you are. I can either take you or leave you, or I could try my best to engage with you to see how your perspective can be changed as well. Because I approach race, I just love people, and so I approach it from that standpoint. But is there things that people show me? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, sometimes I'm walking in my shop, and I can see people behind me because the window is right there, and so you can see people across the shop, across the street. And I see some men, like there's two instances. I was, because you're a business owner, you don't think about people looking at you funny walking into a place that you have a key to, or whatever. And I was walking in a place, and one guy, he kind of turns and stops. I could see him behind me, in the window in front of me. I'm walking in my door, and he kind of stops and kind of like, what is he doing? Why is he looking? Why is he going? Or does he have a key to that place? Or so you automatically think that, you automatically know this person is suspicious of Black people just by that instance. Like, the one time I parked my bike across the street. I'm walking across, and there's a woman. It was really early, like 6, 7 in the morning. And I, me personally, I probably would not have known it in my head, but in my head, I know that this guy was suspicious of me because there's a woman. I didn't see the woman because I'm coming. The building is, I'm on the other side of the building. This woman's coming down the street, and I'm on this side parked, and he's across the street. So he literally stops at the street, at the corner, and kind of just stands there. And there's no one out. So it's like, why are you stopping, first of all? But I just, I'm like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not moved by what people think of me. So, but the fact that he stopped, I'm like, I said, why does he stop? And then he's watching to see my interaction with her. I don't know if you see what I'm saying, how I would engage her, if I would, try to do something to her or something like that. And that's the assessment I took. It could be different from that, but in my mind, I'm always suspicious of what people do when they do that type of stuff, because I know that they have thoughts that Black people don't do right. Mm-hmm. They don't do right all the time. They always thinking, that try to get over on some people. And there's one time, this Black dude, I'm looking out the window at my shop, and Black dude is kind of pacing back and forth up the street, and he ain't up to no good. I mean, I know it, but I'm saying, okay, I know there's something wrong with this picture. I don't know why he's doing what he's doing, and he steals a bike. And I wanted to run out there and say, stop, dude, don't do that. You're making it look bad for me. You're making it look bad for me because you doing stupid stuff that people already think that we doing that type of stuff in the first place. And that made, and if we were really truthful, the biases that we have, that's what people think a lot of times, because they're like, okay, but I think about that with anybody. It's not in Black, white, I look at you, I'm like, okay, yeah, he ain't up to no good, and that's not a hit against the person, but they're just looking shifty, looking like, doing silly stuff. So, but I get looked at that. I get looked that way all the time in stores and, you know, all the time. So I'm kind of used to it, but that was a big deal back in the day, when they started doing the boycotts and stuff like that in like Birmingham, Alabama. They, people would be followed around the store, or they couldn't try on something, they had to just buy it, and that type of stuff. So that type of stuff has always been ingrained in me from Portland. My mom, just say, don't be stealing nothing, she didn't know. So so I had that assumption that people always think of me in a negative light until they get to know me.
So Brian, what you're describing, how often do you carry that weight of somebody being suspicious, or just the awareness of it?
Every day.
Every day.
All day, every day. Every day. I mean, it's not like I got this phobia about it. It's not like I watch. I'm very attentive to people's mindset or viewpoints in their eyes, and I guess I've gotten that over the years of, you see so many people do things. I'm like, there's some genuine people out in the world. I'm not saying, I love white people and everybody. I mean, I don't have no feeling about that, but I just know I watch people, and I just know that they have certain. I can read it. I don't know. I think over time you become pretty astute or acute. If you want to use that word, to the things of people when you actually deal with it every day. You kind of can read it. Some people are like, oh, I don't know. I've never seen that before. I know, because that's not something that you have to deal with. But when you see people over and over again react or do something similar, that like you all right. So I know you guys have seen the things they call Karen's. Okay. So
you want to briefly explain it?
So Karens are people who are suspicious of Black people. I mean, they'll stop you in the doorway. Why do you do that? Why are you doing that? No, do you work? Do you live here? Do you work here? Or why are you driving down this street? Or, people who are, and that's been something that, you see people calling the cops on someone Black. And that has been something that people have been killed over for hundreds of years, dealing with, that type of stuff, because somebody said something about somebody whistling at them. Emmett Till was one of the main ones. Young Black kid got killed by 2 white guys because he supposedly whistled at a white woman. And he's from Chicago. So, he may have done that. But in his mind, he's like, well, shoot, she's cute. I mean, she's just a human being to him. But in the South, you don't do that. So that's the thing that you learn over life. Now, the question was, again, you asked me. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around.
Is there anything you wish that we knew, like someone like me or someone else that's white in Eugene? Is there anything you wish we knew about what it's like living here, or in our whole country, or just living in Eugene, that might differ, and something you wish people knew?
Well, I know that people don't necessarily believe that those things that go on, that because they don't see it. It's not something that your experience, not your life, and but I guess because I just live in it every day. I'm also I'm not. There's some angry people that are angry about that type of stuff. But for me, I'm like, hey, you know what? That's that person. I mean, I don't have to deal with them.
Right.
But go ahead.
I was gonna say, one thing that really made a big difference to me in my perspective, as I've been like finding out that my experience isn't what everyone experiences. I was listening to a talk by a lady named Brene Brown, she's a lady that talks about vulnerability and shame and stuff.
Okay.
And she was talking with a few ladies. One of them is named Austin Channing Brown, and she's an advocate and an African American. And anyway, Brene Brown told a story of being followed around a grocery store with her friend who's Black. And she thought that the people working there were flirting with her friend, because she had no idea that Black people often get followed around in a grocery store. She's like, oh my gosh, you know, that guy is looking at you. And her friend's like, keep walking, like so annoyed. Finally, when Brene, the white one, realized what was happening, she wanted to make a huge fuss, and her friend was just like, hey, I'm late for work. Will you just, this is my everyday, just come on. And I listened to that, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then it hit me. I was like, I've only been followed around in a store one time as well, just like her. And it was when I was with a Black person as well.
Wow.
Wow. I was walking, I think I was with Joy, another white girl, and we were walking through a shoe store with Juan, the founding pastor of New Day. We were buying shoes for poor kids, but the person owning the store thought that he was a or that he was a pimp, and that we were prostitutes, and that we were trying to steal shoes. That is the only experience I've ever had being looked at like I might be suspicious in my whole life. Like, I've always walked around stores as a free agent. I can do whatever I want. I can accidentally put something in my pocket, or just put my hand in my pocket, and I don't have to wonder what's people looking at me. And I didn't know that's not how you walked around, Brian. I had no idea. And I feel bad, like, why didn't I know? But also, like, it's not like every day you have something happen to you, you're going to go report it to all your white friends. Like, guess what? I had another time of this, or someone looked at me weird, or, you know. So you weren't responsible to tell someone like me, but also I never realized. And I had no idea. I thought,
you know, it's interesting. I was at Safeway twice. I'm in the parking lot. First of all, I got me a sandwich. I went out to the parking lot to sit, and it's during the school time, so kids are coming, leaving from school. And so I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I'm talking to a friend of mine. You know, we've been talking for like maybe an hour on the phone, just I'm shooting the breeze and eating my food. And like I said, kids are passing by me, by my car, because I'm on the, like the south side of the parking lot a little bit, east, south, whatever, southeast side. But so I'm like, you know, I'm not thinking about anything, literally. And I happen to glance to my left and see my mirror, and I see a woman pointing toward my way with a cop.
Oh.
And I looked in the mirror, I'm like, huh? I'm like, I know they're not pointing at me. So I get out my car, and I just stand like looking, and they both go like, no, like I'm like, really? And like, first of all, who called the cops on me? I'm just sitting in my car. I'm not even facing the store. I'm facing away from the store. But I'm like, really? Okay. I didn't, you know, and they both kind of just stood there like, and I stood there like for a minute, like, okay, I want you to engage me. I want you two to both engage somebody, that either the woman did it or somebody, you know, you called the cops on me for whatever reason. I didn't understand. I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm sitting out there for an hour. I guess that's illegal, or maybe that's wrong, or maybe that's suspicious. I don't know. But why would you be looking in the first place? But somebody was looking at me and called the cops, and the cops came to the place. And I'm like, I'm kind of flabbergasted, like, and kind of mad, you know, in a way, but I'm like, that's not cool. Why would you do that? But I'm like, yeah, that's to be expected. Some people already are suspicious of who I am. That's a Karen for me. So I'm like, okay, cool, Karen, you know. But then there was another time I was sitting out, I was facing the store. I just parked. I'm typing a text to somebody, but it was a kind of a long text. It was this discussion that was going on. And I was really getting into it. So I was typing something, and I look up and I see the store manager. Now there is a guy outside acting a little bit strange, but then I'm out in the car and I see the store manager looking my way. I'm like, I said, okay, you know, he might be looking at me. He may not be looking at me. I don't know. So he kind of was standing, but he's inside the store, but near the door, kind of facing my way. Now the dude is on his side. If he's looking out the door, the dude is to his left, but there's the wall right here. The door is right here. So the dude's on the outside. So, but he's looking at me. So I'm like, and I kind of look up, I glance, I'm like, okay, no, he could be looking at me, but I don't know. So I'm texting some more. I'm out there for about maybe 30 minutes, you know, and then I keep seeing him kind of stand out there, and I walk in, and you know, he didn't see me, but I walked toward the door, and right as I'm coming toward the door, he kind of turned, like, you know, kind of quickly and turned around. I'm like, no, he didn't. He wasn't looking at me. Why would he do that? I wasn't doing anything. I'm just person in the store. So I could, like I said, I could be hypersensitive in some aspects. I could be, paranoid in some aspects, or it could be what it was. So I stayed, and then so I forgot something in my car, so I went back out. I'm sitting again. I say, I want to test and see the waters. And sure enough, he comes back to the door, and he kind of mows past the door. He kind of looks over my way, and then he stands there for a minute, and I like, okay, yeah, he's watching me. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, and the dude is out there. He's not acting crazy, but he's outside. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna say something. So I walked up to him. I said, hey man, I said, you don't have to watch me. And he's like, oh, well, I would watch you. I'm like, yes, you were. I watched you watching me for almost a few minutes. He's like, well, no, I'm not. I said, all right. I said, not everybody that's black is suspicious. I told him. I said, I know that's how you feel, but that's not what it is. I'm just having to be texting a text to somebody for 30 minutes out there because it was an intriguing conversation. So
it's such
it's crazy, but I don't know if that was the case, but it felt like that. It felt like he was suspicious of me because I'm sitting outside. I'm not coming in the store. Do I have a gun? Am I gonna come up and roll up in a safe way with a gun? I don't think I would, but hey, some people might do that. I'm not that stupid. So that being said, yeah.
I'm just so interested, Brian, because I feel like I do my best work in the parking lot at grocery stores, talking on texting all the time. And
all the time.
I never think that somebody's looking at me. Sometimes I think, man, I got to get moving.
Right.
But I don't ever, I'm not ever really aware of my surroundings or who's watching because it's just a completely different experience.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Brian, your two kids are now big, but are there any cautions or encouragements that you've offered Sasha or Joshua just living in a fairly white town and not being fairly white themselves?
What's interesting, okay, so, all right, so, yes, I have told them a lot of different things, but their viewpoints have been that I might be overly sensitive toward, I'm too pro-black. Mm-hmm. My kids have felt that way. There was one instance, I was with Pastor Brian. We went to a men's camp, and I never shared this with him. So this is just not between us, but I was something I felt I feel like I needed to share it with him. But it was during the floods that happened in
96.
New Orleans.
Oh, sorry.
New Orleans, and there was that week that no one had went to help these people. And so, by the week's end, people, don't have water, and people are dying on the street, and so I went to the men's meeting, men's retreat, and pastor got up and said, there was, there's a lot of emotion this week, a lot of different things, and I felt like, yeah, if I was on the street and I didn't have my country come to help me. When I have this natural disaster that happens, I'd be mad and angry too. I think anybody would, So the fact that but then I heard the men chime in like, yeah, it was crazy. It was really, I'm like, I said, but wait a minute. Now they're all white men. I'm the only black dude there. And not to mention when I got to the door, I was at the gym at the basketball academy, walked to the door, and they had brother, Who Art Thou movie on. Uh-huh. Well, they have a scene in there about the Klan, and I don't know if it was funny or not. I saw it when I went to the window, and I'm like, why are you playing that at a Christian camp? Me being the only black dude there, I felt uncomfortable by that. I did, but I wasn't the person I am today. I'm really vocal now. I am one that would speak my mind and tell you how I feel about situations. Back then I was a little bit, I don't know. I was more compliant, I think. I'm now a little bit more direct with situations. So that being said, I had told my kids that. And it's like, well, Dad, you might have been thinking you know how you think. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, how do I think? But they grew up in Eugene. So I grew up in Portland, where Black has been a thing, where, and I'm not saying, and so even what's interesting, my daughter, I didn't have to tell her this. She experienced it for herself. I've always coached basketball, so I had these young girls on my team. And so Sasha was friends with all these girls. Going into high school, she tries out for the basketball team, and all these girls start to click up. They're all white girls, and so she's the only Black girl that don't have a friend that from the team. All her friends that she was on the team for like the last 2-3 years all went to their own prospective friends, and Sasha was standing there like looking around like, okay, she's over there and she's over there and she's over there. And I felt bad for her, but I also felt like, wake up. That's the reality of where you live, Sasha. I know that that's not what you want, but I told her that before. This is the way that it is. And you gotta grow up and know that, hey, there are different things. Now, as she learned, as throughout high school, she began to have a lot of Black friends in school. They kind of clicked up. All of them were like, and then they had some white friends that like hanging out with them too. So it's not like it was just a Black or white thing. But she had to experience that for herself. And I told him also, every time, I drove out of my parking lot when I was at New Day or whenever. I drove out of my parking lot and I was like, hey, do what's right. I tell my kids, do what's right. Not because, but I just told them, you need to do what's right in the first place. But you're being watched, so you do what's right. So, and I remember one time during the summertime, the kids were, there was all these little Black kids all together. My kids were with them. I pulled over, I literally turned the block and pointed at my kids. I said, hey, you two, you do what's right. I don't care hey, I don't know about the rest of them, but you don't do nothing wrong. Because I don't want to have to go pick you up from someplace, cops end up, picking all you guys up over something. So yeah, I've had to kind of warn them. But me and Sasha have had some heated debates about race, because she does not believe in, she ended up marrying someone Black or white, who I love dearly. It wasn't never a Black or white thing. I was just trying to educate her on, this is our life. Our life as Black people has not been this nice and sweet as it is in Eugene. So when you see race stuff going on around, people getting killed, and that's something that's gone on for decades. So she don't really want to see that side of it. And then later on, she really loved, but she also felt like Pastor Brian was more of a father figure to her than me. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but I never downed that feeling. She told me, she did. I told her that. I said, you respect him a lot, and I'm glad that you have that perspective of him. I want you to have that, and I'm glad you have someone that you can hold on to, even if it's not me. That's what I told her, and then later on, as she's gotten married, she really her love for me has grown a lot more. I don't know what that's all about, but I'm glad that it is, but it's not so. I think she's starting to see it from perspective that now she walks around with her white husband, and she may see some of the things that I've been telling her all these years, that people don't necessarily like that, but you be who you are. I told him, I said, you love her, man, and show them that you love her, and what can they do? And you protect her if anything go down. Make sure that she understands that, hey, he got my back, and y'all call me, and I'll come up, and we roll up with the guy. No, just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I roll up and like, hey man, y'all leave these two alone. These are genuine, loving people. Just y'all chill out, man. So, yes, I have told my son that, and my son got caught stealing at Hiram's, and I was just raving about him. I said, hey man, that my kid, he's a great kid. I was telling my client that. And then ring, I'm like, hey, your son just got caught stealing. I said, wow, okay. So I had to roll up to Hiram's, which is fine. I didn't even go off on him. I just said, hey man, go back to school. And then we got home that evening. I took his phone for a few minutes, and I said, Josh, what do you see me doing? What do you see me doing in my life? He said, working. I said, yes, that's what we do. We are not a family that is going to be doing things wrong. you don't steal. I had $10 on my counter, on my computer, on my keyboard this morning. You could have grabbed that and went and bought you some headphones, but you decided to steal them. Why would you do that? I said, that's not what we do. We don't do that. Not necessarily just black people, but this family doesn't do that. You don't see me doing it, right? So now that's not what you do. Everybody makes mistakes, and I can't judge you on that. But I said, but that's not the best way, And I said, and then I kind of got teary eyed. He started crying, and I gave him back his phone. I said, just don't, hey man, that's not who we are, man. That's not who we are. Not as believers, not as black people, not as this family. That's not who we are. We don't want to set that example for anybody to judge us based on that. So, yeah, I've told him all that stuff. Even now that he's driving, I'm like, hey, you get stopped. Don't talk back. You just talk to the cops. Respect. Every time I've talked to cops, I've been very respectful. So they always walk away like, man, I really enjoyed our conversation. Cool, man. That's what I want. Because I don't want to get shot or get killed. Now I just want to go home. And I actually did get stopped one time in right outside Junction City. I was playing keyboard out there, and I just got my car, so I was speeding. I'm not gonna lie. So I was speeding. So I caught the dude, and as I'm going through the light, the cops are there, and they pull me over. Instead of me pulling over to the right-hand side, there's 2 lanes. I pull him in the middle medium, and that middle medium actually they got concerned. Why would I do that? And so 4 cop cars came, and I just told them, I said, hey, can we all just relax? Everybody would just relax. I want to make it home. I know you do. I don't have no guns. Let's just, I said, let's just make it through this day. I said, how's your day going? I asked this one guy, how's your day going? He said, it's good. He had his hand kind of on his gun a little bit. I said, hey man, just relax, man. I ain't got no guns. I'm just trying to go home, So I had to kind of let them know that, it seemed like they kind of, well, your car isn't registered in your name. Because I just got it. So it's being in process. I had the receipt. You want to see the receipt? Show them the receipt and said, well, do you have your ID? I'm like, yes, it's in my bag. Can you grab my bag out the back? I'm not going to reach for it. I'm not going to do that. They're like, well, no, I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I said, I'll unlock the door. I said, the door's unlocked. I said, just go ahead and grab the bag out, and I'll grab the situation out. So I had to kind of, yes, I had to kind of be that way, because I didn't know if I was going to make it out of that situation. So I'm like, here, just make sure that you can see everything I'm doing. I just want you to make sure you see it, So yeah, I had to experience that. I've been stopped, detained for not like detained, but like in my car, and they was just shooting the breeze. I'm like, I said, I ain't got nowhere else to be, I guess. Obviously that's what you want to do. So, there's been certain times, but not too often have I dealt with cops, because I just approach them like they're human beings, and not some cops, they get angry, and I understand that there's the anger side. But then there's sometimes you just gotta say, man, just chill out and relax and just try to see. But some cops have instigated things. And what do you do in that situation? I haven't had that experience, but I haven't had some experiences that some of these young kids and some of these men in other parts of the country have dealt with. I don't know how I would respond. I may respond the same way. I might, So I don't know. I hope that I wouldn't, be belligerent and get angry. But because that's what they're pushing for you to kind of get angry and get testy, and then okay, he's resisting arrest. He's So I just choose to just approach it in a different way. So yeah.
And as a point of clarity for me, as I've been listening to people, I've heard even my next door neighbor told me this, that there are many people of color in Eugene that have found Eugene to be less welcoming to people of color than in other areas. Like my next door neighbor did not live near me very long until they just moved away because they said they didn't feel safe here. Is that something that's just really case by case, or have you heard people?
It is case by case, and also there's some people who have had bad experiences with people, and especially like in the South, people that come from Texas and Birmingham, Alabama, and all those different places like that. Some love it here. Florida, they they swear by it. But others, they just cannot get with white people, man. It's like, and so it's like they don't trust white people at all. I mean, they don't. It's like, you know, of course they talk to me because I'm black. So I'm like, I said, you know, I understand. And he said, you know, you like it out here? I'm like, I said, I love it. I love it. I think it's a great place to live. I don't know. I just can't get with it. It's just too many white people. You know, I'm like, I said, you know, I mean, you used to, because I went to Atlanta. When I got off the plane, there's nobody black and nobody white in the terminal. I was like, wow, it's like black people for real. I'm serious. I was like, wow. They're like running all the show. They like behind the counters and driving the little train things. I'm like, wow, okay. This is what's happening. It's like a mecca of black people. I'm like, okay. And then so now I go around town and it's like, I say, okay, this is like a lot of people that of color out here. So I didn't know that, you know. I got off the plane. I got on the plane in Portland. All white people. Got off the plane in Atlanta. It's all black people. I'm like, wow, it is like black people out here that really actually are doing things and making money and, you know, lawyers. And so I remember going to Birmingham one time with my dad and caught a flight. And this black sister, her hair was probably cut as short as mine. She was so pretty and sexy. I'm like, I was dressed all in her little, you know, like she was obviously in corporate, you know. And I'm like, I said, girl, you looking tight, girl. What's up with that? You know, I had to kind of give her some props. I'm like, I said, because I hadn't seen that. I haven't seen sisters just be that confident in just having a shortcut. So you got the power cut too, you know. That's like, I'm confident. I don't care what you say about my hair, about my, you know. But she was sharp. And had her briefcase, and I'm like, she sat next to me, and so we chatted for a while. And I'm like, so it's, you know, it's eye-opening for me as a black male to see young people being black men, and also just seeing people be progressive, and you know. So I thought that was interesting. So, you know, so yes, I don't know what the question was. I'm drifting everywhere. So.
Well, Brian, you're such a great communicator, and I love how you, you know, you're explaining your experience with police officers, and you're actually kind of walking them through how you know, kind of a safe experience. Like, I'm not going to do anything. Go ahead. I give you permission, right? So you're almost coaching along the way, I'm noticing.
Yeah, because they don't know.
They don't know.
They really don't know. They're not trained to deal with black people. I know that would be a thing, that should be a thing. Or how do you deal? I mean, but you're dealing. So this is the thing. You're dealing with a white person who has never really dealt with with a black person, and they're trying to teach a white person how to deal with black people, and you've never had your own experience.
Yeah.
And you have to have an experience with people of color, and not a bad one, and not a perception of what you think they are. You have to have a true experience, and like, oh, not all black people are like this, but that some people are come in from Roseburg and all these little small towns, and they're trying to be cops, and they have no experience in dealing with black people, and so they have a perception of who they are off the gate. I'm like, I said, but that's not who we are, you know. That's somebody's perception of the perception of that person, you know. And they're trying to teach somebody something, you know.
Yeah. You'd mentioned getting off the plane in Birmingham and in the South and seeing Black people and, you know, someone who appears to have it together. And I noticed that your language and your expression changes. Do you find that, like, when you talk to Melissa or you talk to your Black friends or friends of color?
There's a little bit of a change there.
Right?
I don't know, you know, so just, you know, all right, so a little experience. My mom, I love my mom. She was just a wonderful woman, but she showed me that from her own experience. She had a white dude that she was talking to on the phone. I think it was her boss. She did insurance for a while. She was talking to him, and she's like, "Oh yes, yeah, okay, yeah, okay." And then her girlfriend called her, and she's like, "Girl, you know, it's turn." I'm like, "Okay," so she conforms. My mom conforms to whatever the situation is, and so yeah, I guess I'm still me in the midst of all that conforming, but I do conform. Like, hey, how are you doing? You doing good? You know, because I don't know how people's perception is, so I want to be articulate. I want to be, you know, I want to be progressive. I want to be me, but I also want to be a little bit like, I want to be, they always used to call some people uppity Negroes. That was a word. Oh, you uppity. you better than us, the lowly people. That was the thing back in the day. So you conform to kind of be, some folks don't want to conform. Some people want to be street, want to be ghetto, want to be kind of like that way all the time. And I can kick with anybody, that dude. But also I see a lot of times that dudes really respect me because I don't come off like that. Black people and white people, they respect me because I don't come off like I'm trying to conform to. I'm trying not to be. I'm not a street person. I'm not a person that grew up in the hood, and well, I did grow up in the hood, but it wasn't like the hood. Like I've been to San Francisco and Oakland. That's like hood for real. So we don't know nothing like that out here. So I had to learn. Yes, I had to learn to conform and talk a little bit more articulate. And just but I don't do it. I may not do it knowingly.
Well, I find that I do it when I talk to you, Brian. So my question kind of came from this, man, I find like I feel, I'm not going to lie, I feel cooler when I talk to Brian.
All right. All right.
And
that's because you are already cool.
You're sweet.
You always have been.
But I think I think we kind of feed off of each other. And when we know each other,
Right.
We do recognize those differences, but you being someone who has contributed, locally to churches, predominantly white churches, right? But you've been involved in some predominantly Black churches too, right?
Right.
So what do you see? Do you see any differences in how, the word is preached? Do you see different emphasis in different churches? What do you notice?
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy, I kind of have, I kind of like being a commodity in a sense, because, you kind of learn how to play keys and learn how to sing a certain way, except for one pastor in Roseburg. He was like, he just said it. He's like, I got a gifted Black man on the keys or something like that. I'm like, wow, okay. That was just straightforward. I'm like, but he said it multiple times too. It's like he really felt comfortable. But and I think it was genuine, coming from a genuine place. But he definitely felt honored, but also like, and not like, I didn't feel like a slave, if you want to say it like that. I didn't feel like that, but I feel like, okay, he feels comfortable saying a Black man in front of people, and everybody was smiled and laughed and everything. And I'm not sure, but I think some people felt a little uncomfortable at times when he said it. But hey, it is what it is. I just kind of like, yeah, okay. Wayne Cordero. Oh, Wayne Cordero. So Wayne got up there. He's like, I was on the keys at New Hope, and he's like, you finally got some people of color up here in front of everybody. I'm like, Wayne, really? But it was funny, and he said he finally got some color up on the stage or something like that. I thought it was funny, and and I said I'd seen him afterward. I pushed him. I'm like, stop, man, you're silly. He's like, we just got that type of rapport, so he's real cool. But yeah, I think there's different styles of worship. I think that's the beauty of Christendom. I just think that, I grew up Baptist. I went to like a non-denominational church that was predominantly Black. It's called Maranatha in Portland. And we had a lot of good music. I mean, that's what I learned to do. I worship first. For the first time, I actually got up and led worship for the main congregation, like when I was like 19 and 18 or something like that. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And to hear God speak to you and tell you, have people kneel. I'm like, really, God? That's like different, But, and then I had another lady who I love dearly. She's like, are you going to have them kneel? I'm like, how do you know about that? So God kind of shared that same thing with her. So yeah, so then that was one time. And yes, and then I went back to my old Baptist church, and that worship, they when we tried to do worship over there, they was like, we don't do that over here. Not like that. Like our worship, like how we do it. that was uncomfortable for them. It was like they sat down. I'm like, okay, y'all just gonna sit back down. No, we do, and they weren't trying to feel the worship stuff. So yes, there's big difference in styles and how people connect with music. I think sometimes there's certain churches that actually will let music flow, like Church of the Harvest was really good at kind of letting, Pastor Brian was really kind of letting the worship kind of keep flowing after we ended, and started back up a little bit. New Hope is a little bit more structured, and they don't necessarily do that. I was like, man, let's go, man. We need to let it go, but we got another service. Hey, I said, okay, well, but that's kind of counterproductive to me if we stop the flow of what's happening, at the moment, because we ain't gonna get that back, So let's try to milk it, until it can't be milked no more. So that's something I do notice in some white churches that they were a little bit more restrictive at times. Not all. There's a lot of when I was at First Baptist and I led worship there a couple of times, and they let us go. They kept having me come back and sing songs. I'm like, okay, they're kind of feeling this song. I'm like, cool, let's do it. I love the song too. So yes, I think every church is different. Everybody's different. Black and white churches, even black churches here, I don't necessarily know if I would want to go there. Because it's not because they're black, that I go to a church. My church is because I feel God's presence. And sometimes, and I can't say that I haven't been some obligations of well, I'm kind of getting paid to play as well. I mean, I can't say that wasn't a thing at a couple of churches, but that wasn't my main thing when that actually happened. So I'm like, okay, but then I said, would I be here if I didn't, and I would have at this one out in Junction City. I really enjoyed it. Small. I said, there's one experience that there's a white gentleman, older white gentleman. I came in the door and I'm like, hey, how you doing? He just looked at me. I'm like, you going good? Oh, okay. He didn't respond. So I'm like, okay, so he don't like black people. And that was his first. I mean, that's all I could take. There's no reason for you not to speak. I'm the only black dude, the only person in the building at the time, because he's doing the chips and wine or whatever, the cracker. He's doing that, and so he comes in, and after he didn't speak to me, I didn't say nothing to him for almost 2 years. Because I'm like, you already showed me your true colors, bro. I mean, what more? He kind of came up a couple times and said something kind of like, no, it's good. I'm like, I said, yeah. Now, what do you do? What do you say to that? And his wife, I'm like, and I judged her. I can't lie. I judged her based on that you married him, and you knew who he was, and that's who he is to me, because he's distant from me the whole time that I'm there, and every now and again he feels like he wants to come out of his shell and say something to me. I'm like, I said, bro, you can keep that, because that you already showed me your colors, and I feel like if that's who you are, God may have been changing his heart over time. I don't know, but I don't. It's hard to let that go after that. I'm like, I said, okay, all right, it's all good, And he didn't know that I was gonna be there that long though. He didn't know I was leading the worship. He didn't know none of that, out the gate. So when he saw me up there leading the worship, he was like, oh, okay. Then I kept coming every Sunday. He's like, okay, I guess he's not going nowhere. And I did that to him. So, I mean, what do you say to the person after that? I don't know. It's kind of a jacked up situation, but I'm like, hey, I'm just going, I really, literally, they would come in and do their little offering thing. And, she would say something to me like, hey, yeah. Mm-hmm. I never engaged them, honestly. And I think that was wrong in some aspect, but I couldn't pull myself to do it after that. So maybe that wasn't godly, but oh well.
You mean you're human. You're human, right?
That's how I felt. I'm like, forget him. I'm not worried about what you think about me. I'm going to keep on doing what I got to do. You keep doing what you got to do. And that's how I approach everybody who thinks like that and acts like that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Just like cops that have problems with me, just don't touch me. Just don't touch me. I mean, just don't bother me. Don't touch me. Keep yourself moving. You can have all your opinions and thoughts about me all you want. Just leave me alone, though. Okay? Because I don't know how I respond. I don't want to respond wrong, but I don't care about your opinions of me. That doesn't matter to me. But just don't touch me, because I may flash, and I don't want to do that. I'm a Christian. I love God, but I don't know how I respond with someone who actually would take it to that level. Like, I'm gonna do something to him. Now, I've had some people. I had one lady. I was at Starbucks, and she actually had. Well, I'm not going there because we were talking about church. So they're not. So then we're gonna go back over here. So So yes, there are some differences of worship, differences of church, and how the word is taught. Some, they hoop and that's where I grew up in. And he died, he rose, okay, but I mean, he did a lot more than that. He left us promises, a lot of different things, stuff that I learned later on I didn't know before. And I went to a church of non-denomination, but my pastor was bomb. He was a word man, so he set examples to worship, and he led, and he also, every Friday night, I started doing Friday night worship in like this back room, and all the pillars of the church would be there. I'm like, man, my boy Perry would go in there and pray with them, and that taught me the things of how to navigate through this Christian walk, because I watched people do it, So those are just foundations that I can say that I have. I learned from the Baptists, from Maranatha to another non-denominational church, and then I moved up here, and so yeah, there's a lot of different aspects of Christendom that I've had the experience. So it's been wonderful. I mean, I'm glad I was able to go to Church of the Harvest. I met Terri. Terri was like a light for me. You don't know how much of a light you were, Terri. I mean, really were. I felt like, I just love her spirit. I love who she is. She's so genuine and just trustworthy, and she does what she's supposed to do, her part, in the flow of things. I can look to her, and I know she's got my back, and I got her back. And it was really cool to kind of navigate with that, hanging out with your husband, your past husband, and him taking me on the water. Trying to kill me, and he was driving fast. I'm saying, I think I was going about 100 miles an hour across the water. And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna slow down." I'm like, "Yeah, bro, you're not trying to kill me out here." But that's being said.
What people don't know, Brian, is that you took what tiny bit of music knowledge I had and really did expand my ability to be able to play a little bit of keys by ear. And
right.
You have been so amazing. I love that Melissa and I get to share this friendship with you, because you are such a light. You've invested in people, in worship, in kids, because I've seen you do that so much. You're a stylist, you're a musician. I mean, there's really nothing you can't do.
Cuban salsa dancing.
That's right.
That's right. Gotta throw that in there. No.
Exactly. And for the sake of time, I feel like we could talk forever and ever on this, but I just wanted to kind of, out of respect for time for both you and Melissa, is there anything, Melissa, you want to close with, or Brian, you want to share that we haven't covered?
No, Melissa, I want to tell you, you are. I told her last time I did her hair. I told her she's just she's woke. I told her she's woke, and that I've been telling people about you, Melissa. You don't know that, but I've been telling people about you, how you opened my eyes about how a person who didn't understand, and I said she could articulate it to someone who doesn't understand better than maybe a Black person could, because she came out of that in her own mind, and she started doing her own research and all doing her. And I mean, not just that, but I've always loved you. I mean, you've always been light in my life, and I love who she is. You can tell she's focused and very direct in dealings with things. And, I don't know, I just always loved who you were. So I just want to let you know that too.
Thank
So
you.
I'm glad you guys had me on here. Really.
Mhm.
It's been awesome. I love this.
Well, we're kind of feeling our way through. We every time Terri and I talk, we're like, okay, what are we doing exactly again? But each time we do another video, and we've actually recorded a few now. We're still just editing, but
Nice.
but it's still just evolving. And so I don't know. Maybe we could call you again sometime. I don't know exactly
You
where.
ain't gotta ask me twice. I'm out
Yeah.
here.
Well, we just love talking to you, and I feel like we're just following God's lead of just what's God doing right now.
Right.
And it's a little bit of just bringing in more voices to the conversation, because I guess we're in the unique situation where there are many people who only have voices that sound like themselves and that look like themselves. And so we're kind of saying, okay, well, at least we want to get more voices in the conversation and see where it goes from there. So
right. I think like even the stuff that's happening in Portland, I think we were going to talk about that, but I think that what I love about the whole movement is that white people, black people, everybody's coming together for the cause. It's not necessarily for Black Lives Matter. I think that's a major part of it, but I think it's just that we don't want to be controlled in life any longer. I think that, they're trying to stop church, and like our church shut down Sunday. And I'm like, I said, this is craziness, let us just live our lives back where we were, or move into the next phase. So I think that people are just kind of coming together because they're realizing that it's not necessarily a black and white thing. Blacks are being, systematically hurt in a lot of different ways and have been for centuries. But that being said, people of all races are really coming together, and that's what the beauty of this whole thing is. And I love the fact that we are all different, from all different backgrounds and walks of life. But I'm glad we're connected. I feel very connected with y'all. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I think we'll just end it there with a note of mutual respect and connectivity, and just with the notion that we're just going forward and together as much as possible.
Nice.
Cool. Well, thank you, Terri. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I'll cut it here. Actually, Terri,